that was a very intelligent fight from Khamzat Chimeav. Just an amazing performance. I actually went live on YouTube, and there were some people that were in the chat like, oh my God, this is so boring. What are you guys watching? Educate yourselves. Learn how to grapple, and then you will see that this was an amazing fight. This was an incredible performance. Khamzat completely nullified this guy that was running through everyone. Everybody knows that DDP looks like he sucks, but for some reason, he's able to whoop all of these people that are great fighters. There was a bunch of stuff that Khamzat did just at a spectacular level. The efficiency and accuracy and ability to continually bring DDP down with a double leg was just astounding. I think he was getting double legged every 10 seconds, 12 seconds, in 15 seconds of every round. The one takedown that DDP was able to defend, Khamzat just came up, bop, 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 and then boom, back in on the double. We're gonna break down this fight, but we're mainly gonna focus on 3 positions. First, we're gonna look at Chimeav's double leg, because oh my God, if you can double leg somebody that many times in a row, you are amazing, and we need to figure out what the hell is happening there. Second, we're gonna look at the crucifix position, how he's stabilizing it, how he's able to maintain control, and possibly how he's able to generate more force than he was able to generate with this ground and pound attack. Then third, we're gonna look at that backside body lock, because literally the whole time Chimeav is on top, he's either in backside body lock or he's in crucifix. There's a couple times where he went to side control, but it's mostly back body lock and crucifix. So we're gonna break down all 3 of those technically so that you guys can intake this information and make your game better, so that you're able to grapple people like you're Chimeav. Okay, so first off, we gotta talk about Chimeav's look. When this dude is crouching in front of the cage with that smile, that like creepy ass smile, bro, that is one of the most terrifying things that I've ever seen from a fighter before a fight. Like if you're looking at a dude and they look like this and you're about to fight him, like, I don't even know what to say, man. You're probably gonna die. This guy is so down to scrap. If you're not down to scrap, like you should just leave. Like you should just like climb the cage and leave, because that is absolutely horrifying. This dude looks like some sort of like evil garden gnome that's just grown to like 6'1". Like I don't know what this dude's eating or where he came from, but yeah, I wouldn't want to fight anybody who looked like that. And I want to fight pretty much everybody, but I don't want to fight anybody who looked like that. Okay, so first thing, Chimeav comes out and within the first couple seconds he throws a front kick. Now, I don't know if that's just a distraction. I don't really think he cares about landing the front kick. I think he actually would rather just use that southpaw stance to shoot. So he throws the front kick in order to get to his southpaw stance, which may be his preferred shooting stance. We'll have to look at the rest of the shots to see what exactly is happening here. But I believe that that's what's happening right now. I throw my rear leg front kick, boom, and that gets me to southie. Now, from here, in order to cover that ground, he starts with a big sprint step and brings both arms out. But you can see we're not close enough, so then he brings that back leg up, but then instead of going to just the one leg, he goes to both legs. And that's going to get that spine super straight. And then he comes up around the corner here, starts lifting and tilting, and then brings this knee up and boom. The penetration step happens off of his right leg, but then he brings his back leg, his left leg up. He brings it all the way up. We can see right now that leg coming through. And then not only does the left leg drop down, right? But he drops down to both knees. We can see him right here, deep on a double on both knees. And look at the line of his spine. Look at the line of his spine. He's like this, and he's connected way into the hips. Not only is he connected into the hips, but he's got both arms wrapped around the legs with elbow deep grip. This is almost like your sprawl is dead, man. Your sprawl is dead. This is a crazy amount of penetration that you're able to get when you're shooting like this. This changed my double leg forever, and it's changed me from not having a very good double to immediately being able to double pretty much everybody in the gym easily and being able to cover an incredible amount of ground with that double. So now after going to both knees, he brings the right foot up yet again, and this starts his corner turn, right? So we can see him here deep on the double, strong head position. How not to get guillotined when shooting a double leg? Have head position like this. if your head is up like that, it's so hard for the person to wrap over top, right? They're not even getting access to the back of your neck unless they're leaning way over, which if you're leaning way over, like you're already going down. The chance that you're gonna be able to jump a guard or something is like very, very, very minimal. So he's got such strong spine position. His head is way up and he's deep with 2 elbow deep grips on that double leg, while turning the corner and changing the angle. This is like elite, elite, elite double leg. Then he takes that left knee off the mat again in order to increase that angle even more. So he's really turning around the corner here. And here's where he's gonna start to elevate the legs and turn Dricus sideways. The knee comes down and then his second knee, his right knee, drops down again, and Dricus has like no answer at this point. He's deep, he's posting his hand, but his back is being exposed to the ground. This is over now. This is over. Your chances to hip heist are gone. Plus, those elbow deep grips make it almost impossible for Dricus to rip his legs back. Like, when I was watching this fight, I was like, man, why isn't Dricus able to defend this takedown at all? Like, you have absolutely zero defense, and I don't think that he doesn't have good defense. I think it's just that Khamzat is just that good.
He was in that butt scoop position. He's got both legs with one arm, and then he's bringing this arm up and over. At this point, DDP put in the guillotine and tried to use the momentum.
This entire fight, he did an amazing job of keeping Dricus's legs away from the fence and keeping Dricus's back again away from the fence, because that's most people's safety net in order to get back up. He is shutting all that down by just shooting this takedown wide out in the open where there is no fence back to help Dricus stand back up. And now you can see Dricus getting flattened out. We've got Khamzat controlling both legs, elevating the legs while circling to side control. At the same time, he's taking that inside arm, right? His outside arm, his arm that is over both legs, is hooking the near side leg in order to stop that guard from coming in. Because once the person gets to a guard, if they have a guillotine grip, that's a problem. But he's at the same time circling to side control, circling to his left, and taking that near side arm of his, right, the left arm, and bringing it up over the shoulder, which is just classical guillotine defense.
DDP tried to use the momentum to flip him over there. Chimeav was up in the air and then landed feet first and then heisted from here, boom, and back. And then takedown secure.
Now, this got a little squirrely here. Dricus is so strong. He is extremely strong. And he's trying to use that guillotine grip to turn his head and flip him over. Khamzat's legs are coming up in the air, right? I was actually scared right here. I was like, oh no, he's gonna get reversed and Dricus is gonna be on top of him, which is a problem. Dricus is actually decent at grappling when he's on top, but not when he's on his back. Khamzat was able to defend this still, but it was a bit of a hairy moment for him. So Khamzat pretty much does a full cartwheel right over top of his body, but you see the way he lands. He lands in a way where his hips are up off the ground, his feet are planted, and he's still able to be athletic from this position. From here, we're gonna see him hip heist. So Dricus is still trying to turn now, although it's becoming very evident that it's not going to work. Khamzat has hip heisted, and he's in the middle of going belly down to settle back on top of him. And boom, takedown complete. Not only did he do an amazing double leg takedown, but he was able to scramble through a potential reversal using that guillotine grip, use that cartwheel, hip heist back on top. Now we're in north-south position, chest on chest, and Dricus does not really have an answer to this. Okay, so we can see Chimeav here in the scarf hold position, and he's doing damage. This is a good way to ground and pound on MMA from side control, because you have one arm free to start hitting with. He's got an underhook with the right side, right, and his left arm is free to punch. Now, if you're doing this and your opponent starts blocking, perfect setup for the crucifix, which is exactly what Chimeav starts doing.
Chimeav's using the scarf position this actually allows you to do a decent amount of damage. But he didn't actually just make the guy catch. Usually I'll make him catch my arm and then I'll bring the knee in and pin his arm like that. But Chimeav actually was inside and using his own inside frame to help him get his knee involved. And then once his knee was involved, boom, he's here and he's got that arm like this, stapled above the elbow. This is the key to holding the position, making sure the person can't get that elbow out. If they get that elbow out, they're able to frame. So we need to keep that thing stuck like that. So this is how DDP is holding. Or sorry, this is how Chimeav is holding. And then at first, Chimeav is like this, right? So his head is super close to my head. Very difficult for me to generate force here. I don't really have an elbow, right? This was somewhat annoying for Chimeav, right? But as soon as DDP's head came down by the legs like this is devastating force. Devastating. Now, I would be using elbows, and Chimeav did start using elbows later in the situation, but I think he could have done a lot more with it if he was just attacking with elbows instead of switching back and forth from elbows to punching.
Right, so he snuck that left arm inside to the pit of the elbow, and he's gonna push that elbow down in order to make room for his knee to start sliding in. And boom, he's got the knee in. He made that space with his own inside frame, and then whoosh, gets that knee up nice and high and removes his frame while he brings his knee in to frame that arm and pin it to the ground. So now we can see Chimeav start to staple that arm with his leg, separating it from the body and putting DDP into a crucifix. And now we have DDP stuck under the full crucifix. We've got Chimeav pinching with his knees, making sure that that right elbow of DDP's can't just come back in and start framing the hip and actually creating some defense, right? He's split apart and he's gonna just start raining down punches. Now, DDP's head is in great position for damage right now, but he's likely not gonna keep it here for very long. Now, this is the round 3 crucifix. In the first round, DDP was hiding his head in the armpit of Chimeav right away, but he's a little more tired, a little bit more broken down now, has absorbed a little more damage, and for at least a second here, Chimeav is able to start unloading.
How I would make this better, because I've been in this position several times in fights, and I was able to stay there for a long time, but I still had problems generating power. Okay, some people will do this and they'll bring their head up, but then that arm can come back in. Okay, so that's a problem. I like to keep my head down. Okay, but I want his head to stay by my leg. So instead of me having my legs close to his elbow, where it's easy for him to slip his elbow out, I will organize myself this way, like this. Okay, so the head is close to my leg the whole time. It is being backstopped by my leg. There's nowhere safe for him here. Okay, and then I will use elbows like this in order to do crazy amounts of damage. Right, if he turns his head away, this is the only situation where I can't really elbow, so this I will punch. And it's big swings, and I'm using my knuckle like that. Bang, right on the orbital. Bang, temple, orbital. He doesn't like that, he's going to bring his face this way. Bang, okay, like that. And not only am I pulling here, okay, but I'm also pulling with my leg into his head. Now, the one other thing I do is I don't like this leg to be dangling, okay, so I keep it up in the air like this, okay, because this is the escape involves this leg. I don't want him to be able to hook this with his legs, so I keep it as far away as possible, right? And sometimes people can still hook it, but if I'm distracting him with nasty elbows here, it's going to be very difficult for him to think enough to escape.
So this is the position I was talking about. This is DDP's answer to the crucifix. He's gonna put his head in the hardest place for him to be hit with hard shots at least. You can see that his head is very close to Chimaev's head. He's tucking it up like this, and also only really giving Chimaev the back of his head that he could use with force to hit, right? Like, you have to be able to swing your arm at a decent clip in order to actually cause damage. If I'm like this, that's not really doing much, which is what we saw in the first crucifix. In the very first crucifix that Chimaev put him in, DDP didn't really get hurt that much. It was annoying for him for sure, and he's definitely losing on all the cards, but the shots were very small, right? This is the same exact position, and this is what has been very annoying for me because I've crucifixed a few people in fights, and it's not always easy to create a lot of damage while keeping the position stable.
DDP's like trying to get that up here so he can pull that out, but there was one point where his legs actually got really close to Chimaev. My legs get close to those legs, I'm just gonna grab them and start pulling them into my half guard. Okay, now this gives me a lot of leverage actually to start turning the person over. Okay, I thought everybody knew this, but you don't see crucifix all the time. If I get this far leg, it may be kind of hard for me to turn him over. But if I can get this leg, okay, I'm gonna either pull it into half guard or pull it all the way over. So either he lets me get back to half, or he keeps his legs together, right? And I'm able to get him all the way over and turn that position around, and now I can do it to him. I don't know why DDP didn't use that, but this just goes to show that he's not as experienced being on his back as he probably should be.
Now we're gonna talk about the one takedown that DDP was able to actually defend, and then what Chimaev did in order to chain it to another one. Once again, we see him switch to southpaw before he shoots. It really seems to me that Chimaev likes to shoot as a southpaw and not as an orthodox fighter, which is very common for wrestlers. Wrestlers will put the power leg, the power arm in front when they shoot. That's their preferred way of doing things. But if they're righty, they'll usually be taught to box like this. So they will have to switch their stance before they shoot. This is something that you can use to predict when a wrestler is going to shoot on you. So once again, we're seeing that sprint step, right? That lead foot going out in order to close a gap. And then him reaching forward with both arms, putting his head towards the weak side in order to not get hit with power shots. Now, if you look at this shot, this is way too far away, and this is probably why DDP was able to defend this one, is because Chimaev was getting really confident on his takedowns, and he's shooting from way too far than you should actually shoot a takedown from. Now, if you're an incredible wrestler, you can make this work, but you do risk somebody kneeing you in the face. So I suggest getting a little closer. Doesn't take much to do a little tiny step in first. You can use your jab to set it up, whereas he did throw a jab, but he kind of threw it from where he was, and then he just shot after instead of chaining it with like a jab to a double leg, which would be my preferred method. So you can see now DDP has spotted this takedown coming, and he's moving back, meaning Chimaev is not able to get the same elbow deep grips as he normally gets for these takedowns, but you can see Chimaev's back leg now, his left leg, coming up into the front to increase the amount of space that he can take away in order to connect to DDP. But look at Chimaev's posture. It's like horizontal, right? That's not the best posture to have. You want to have more of an upward angle on your spine. The more you can keep your spine upright, the harder it is for people to sprawl you out. And now it seems that Chimaev is kind of electing to take a single, as because he shot from way too far away, DDP moved that front leg. He moved that front leg back and switched to a southpaw position, so Chimaev no longer has the opportunity to get to the double. So he's going to do the next best thing and just try to connect his hands on the single. Chimaev goes all the way into both knees in the same fashion as he normally does, But because he doesn't have quite as strong a connection and his spine isn't as straight, you saw that first double. The first double, he was like this. Now he's like this. So that gives him way less power with his arms. If you're hanging on too long to a single with your spine like this, okay, you're really likely to tear a shoulder. Promise, it happened to me. Don't do it. So he's not going to have that same kind of grip strength. And DDP is able to sprawl back the other direction and rip that single leg away from him. And now DDP actually has a pretty good sprawling position here. He's got a whizzer. He's pushing the head down, and it's very difficult for Chimeav to build his base up. DDP here is slipping away. He's going to try to limp leg out of this. Chimeav is trying to hold on to whatever he can, but you can see he now has like a wrist deep grip on that leg, which is nowhere near as strong as that elbow deep grip. So this takedown is all but lost at this point. And boom, here we're seeing the limp leg. Okay, he's doing that Heisman, pushing on the head with one arm, withdrawing that leg, and he is out of the takedown. I was a little bit worried here. I was like, oh no, has DDP kind of figured this guy out? Or is Chimeav getting tired and sloppy on his takedowns? Which Chimeav did shoot a much more sloppy takedown here, but I don't think it was fatigue. I think it was just overconfidence. But what does Chimeav do? He doesn't go, oh no, woe is me. I can't get my takedown anymore. I guess I'm just gonna have to kickbox this guy. No, he keeps the momentum going. Anytime that you're in a wrestling entanglement, any wrestling entanglement, and there is a disengagement, there is a huge opportunity on both sides, whether you're the striker or the grappler, in order to gain the momentum. Both people get tired when they deal with these takedown exchanges. The wrestler, the person attacking aggressively, right, is going to get fatigued from the takedown. So if you're the striker, this is a perfect time for you to piece them up with hands while they still have wrestling on their brain. But also, as the grappler in Chimeav's position, he is going to continue that momentum by immediately chaining that right into his striking. And now the guy defends a takedown. He's like, haha, I've got you. And bang, bang, right? He's going to get hit with the shots. DDP doesn't really have a time to think. He gets hit with the first one and he's moving backwards, but bang, bang, bang. Two more shots come right after. And then he's right back in on the takedown again. And this isn't a double leg. It's like, I'm not even sure what to call that. His arm is around the hip and it looks like his left arm is reaching for that far knee while his head is behind. And because DDP was turned sideways when Chimeav was shooting this double leg, he's not really able to get enough power with his arms, right? That far leg is just too far away. So he just climbs up to the body lock and starts going behind, which is probably his favorite position after the crucifix, judging from the fight we just watched. DDP is trying to reach around and turn to face him, but Chimeav is just too quick, man. He's just too quick. He understands these grappling exchanges just way too much. And boom, they spin around. DDP is forced to go down to both knees, put his hands on the ground in order to stop from going to his belly or his back, and Chimeav has just got that back body lock secured. Now it's time for him to run his entire game plan from there and chase the neck.
So this is the classical position. I'm like this. Now, this is the leg that we want to ride, and they generally know that. So they will use this elbow to stop me from getting in. That's not the biggest problem though, because I can still keep them down. I can lean on them. I can knee them in the butt. Okay, I can knee them in the leg. And Chimeav was doing something really cool as he was attacking this spot, right? All these ribs here are actually quite easy to break, and it's quite unnerving to get hit here. It hurts quite a lot. So he was also using this knee up to the ribs, okay? I think he was using this one, okay, which is super rad. He was also using some chipping shots underneath. So he's using his hand, bang, and just throwing these little tiny shots, boom, boom, to annoy the guy, right? And then any time that he saw any exposure upstairs, he was going and he was covering the chin like this. Now, if the guy's face is turned and I can't get around the face, then it's going to be difficult to finish a choke. But even with the head down, if the head is down but it's not turned, I can still get around the face. And anything around under the nose is the neck. So I can finish that. It's just going to have to be a slower squeeze. Don't sprint your squeeze. Start at like 50% and just slow cook it all the way up to 100. They'll probably top when you're about 90% squeeze.
Most people aren't able to keep their opponent in this position as long as Chimeav is able to keep this position. Like, he really just is able to spam this, and it's super annoying. Nobody gets out. So let's see what the hell he's doing.
One of the things that I think allows Chimeav to hold this position so well is the position of his arms, right? He's not down here where the guy can, start digging in and getting an arm in and start turning to face you. He keeps his arms like up here in the armpit. So it's very difficult for him to find a time to get that elbow in. And this also opens up the knee to the body, is something that I would do here. Another thing that I will attack in this position is that ankle. I will attack that Achilles tendon because I know it's on the ground, right? So bang, just stomp on that thing. You can stomp on this toe too. And another thing I'll do is I'll stomp on their hands. You're allowed to break the hands, totally cool. Stomp your heel on the hand. It'll hurt just as much as the foot, maybe even more. So we're just holding that position, leaning on them, hurting them, okay, chipping away. Now also, don't keep your head out here in no man's land, because this is one situation people will throw back elbows from here. You don't want that. So you want your head more over here, okay, where he's not really able to elbow me. And I can just rain down shots as much as I want, okay? And then if he stands back up, go ahead, stand up, right? Chimeav was just bring your leg in front a little bit, like not turning it to me, but like this way. Yeah, so you're trying to stand up. Then we go back down to the hips. We block the knee like this. I'll normally block in the front of the knee and drag them forward, but what Chimeav was doing is he's blocking the side of the knee, and he's dragging them this way, which makes him, again, put his hands down on the ground, and now he's got to do all that work to get back up all over again. One more thing we could do, which is a fantastic attack, really classical. It's called the mat return. I also put this in the MMA Basics class. Is when those hands come up off the ground, go ahead, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. Oh, I just lift them and bring them right back down. And this looks very, very dominant. As soon as you do that, bang, bang, you can throw a couple shots until they start trying to structure up again, and then we just go back to the body lock. You can run this a lot. I use this, if you watch my fight with Zhang Li Pang, probably like 2015, one of my comeback fight after a bad knockout. This was a huge part of my system. I was working long range kick stuff, and then working into the clinch, getting behind the person into this back body lock, and just rinse and repeat. Either I was way too far away for him to hit me, or I was so close that he couldn't hit me, and getting behind him. So it looked even more dominant, and it was even more apparent that I was the person winning. Flawless victory. Super easy. I think I got hit once in the whole fight. Almost as good as Chimeav, but not quite.
So here Chimeav sees that there's an opportunity to climb up to the neck, especially since he's already got the leg ride. This is a great way of thinking. Once I have the leg ride, I have way more opportunity to control the lower parts of the body while I choke the neck. You see this in Conor versus Khabib. This is exactly how Khabib finished Conor, right? And I know that DDP's chin is tucked, but anything under the nose is the neck. So Chimeav's just gonna try to wrap around his face. If he can connect his hands tightly and keep them there, he's going to be able to finish a rear naked choke. This is super dangerous for DDP. So Dricus uses some energy and stands back up, but right away Chimeav will not leave him alone. We can see him right here trying to step around in front of the leg in order to block it and bring him back down. And Dricus once again expends even more energy as defends that step around knee block, and boom, he is twisted and he's forced to go and put his hands on the ground. This is a lot of energy for Dricus to do this. And Chimeav is not really expending much energy. He's mostly just lying on him. When Dricus stands up, it's very easy for him to bring him back down. This is why the body lock is so useful. I love the body lock. And also, most people spend all their time learning how to defend leg attacks, learn how to defend freestyle wrestling, single, double, high crotch. Most people don't spend a lot of time learning how to defend and attack from the body lock. So you gotta use that against them. What a fight, man. What a fight. That was an incredible night of fights. Now, who do you guys think is going to be dangerous for Chimeav? I don't really remember names and I don't know the whole roster, but I know a lot of you guys watch a ton of UFC, so I want to know who you think the next matchup is for Chimeav. Who else is he going to fight? Are we going to see him fight like an Israel Adesanya? Let me know in the comments. So I hope you guys learned something today from this video. I hope you're able to take some of these things that we're learning from Chimeav's grappling attack and apply them to your game. For me, this is the whole point of watching fights. I'm watching to study and learn, to see what the best in the world are doing, what makes them effective, and then I'm trying to slow-mo it and break it down and figure out how I can implement that same kind of tactic. Because honestly, just watching Chimeav's previous fights has made my double leg a million times better. So I hope that you learned something today, and I also hope that you're able to implement this type of stuff on your own, because I can't just watch all the fights for you. This is on you to make your game better, right? So take what we did today and repeat it. Watch all the fights you can and then steal everything that works for your game from everybody. That's the end of the video. Thank you for staying to the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.